We were lost somewhere in the woods, just south of the Henbane River, when the drugs began to take hold. There was an endless field of swaying flowers. The sky became a kaleidoscope, raining tiny motes of light, making everything look holy and virginal. There was a pack of smoking beasts, and a voice was saying, "Come and see," over and over again. Faith's seed leads me on a stroll through the brainwashing flowers, where she explains that if I just stopped giving a fuck, I could be at peace and feel true happiness. I know the drugs have kicked in because she's starting to make sense. Perhaps she and the rest of the Seed family had a point. Was the modern world not a bottomless cesspool of ever-worsening depravity? Were there not unimaginably terrible things happening all around us, all the time? Was anything getting better besides the weapons we use to slay our fellow man? Impossible to argue. But does that make them right? The drug they call the bliss turns reality thick and fuzzy, like cotton, hard to see through. It's a sweaty euphoria that makes you talk like the most obnoxious Jesus freak hippie. Puff enough, and you can be lobotomized into a Christian zombie, muttering fragments of scripture as you shamble around attacking strangers with farm implements. Can't say I recommend it, but I've been told the mind-scrambling high is far better than normal life in Hope County. From what I've seen so far, it's not hard to believe. Well, let's get to the heart of this thing. 24 hours ago, we were on a chopper, landing at the Church of Eden's Gate, where Joseph Seed spewed his doomsday prophecy to a devoted flock. We had come here to see the American nightmare in action, to look it in its screaming red face and ask, "What the fuck is your problem?" We were not adequately prepared to receive the answer. And our chopper crashed. Fate insisted that the father and his twisted family were to be our guides to the nasty backhand of the American dream. "We can't stay here," the sheriff said. "This is Peggy country." The Project at Eden's Gate is a massive Christian doomsday cult founded and led by Joseph Seed, whose followers call him the Father. The cult is quite popular with people who view the Bible as more of a bludgeon than a book. Unaffiliated locals refer to the cultists as Peggies. But this isn't some tiny fringe group holding chapel out in the woods. They are heavily armed, well organized, a veritable army. And through the project, Joseph has seized control of Hope County. If Belinda Carlisle is right, and heaven is a place on earth, well, it probably looks a lot like Hope County, Montana. Miles and miles of unspoiled green, riddled with pine trees and surrounded by mountains. Babbling rivers and flowing waterfalls, feeding into crystal lakes. More animals than people walking around. It's a tiny slice of paradise in the absolute geographic center of nowhere, with lots of fabulous fishing, plentiful hunting, daunting rocks to climb, and bud-clenching bases to jump. The perfect vacation destination for the adventurous traveler. Don't leave your bunker without your wingsuit. Most days, it's prettier than a postcard. So what are these damn Peggies so angry about? In fact, the valley was pretty peaceful. Bucolic, even. Before these occultists started kidnapping, torturing, and killing people, In Jesus' name, of course. It's a weird situation altogether. There is no big bank buying farms out from under hard-working families. No man from the government trying to take their guns or tear down their church. Not even a significant population of foreigners to hate for no reason. Although I will admit that the project has a surprisingly diverse membership for a radical Christian doomsday cult in Montana. What aggressive philosophy did they use to create so many converts so quick? Like everything else about this cult, it just doesn't make sense. The so-called sermons of Joseph Seed are just mouthfuls of angry religious gibberish. Nothing but a collection of cliched vagaries about the path, light, faith, purity, and that favorite staple of hungover priests everywhere, sacrifice. Other than God and guns, the project at Eden's Gate isn't explicitly for or against anything. The only thing their chief prophet is specifically certain of is that the world is going to end, bathed in God's holy fire, and it will be up to the Father and his congregation to build a new Eden on the ashes of the sinful old world. And best of all, since the non-believers are definitely going to perish in the Great Collapse, the faithful needn't care about what happens to them. They can murder non-believers and take their stuff without the slightest pang of conscience. Extremely menacing vibrations all around us. The Peggy freaks had us surrounded, and this was their home turf. It became increasingly clear that our only way out of this valley was to shoot a hole through the Seed family. We needed to find allies and arm ourselves to the teeth. The first were not easy to round up during a theocratic coup, but Hope County was absolutely wealthy with weapons, proudly home to more guns than people. It was disturbingly easy for me to acquire a spiked bat, a matching set of brass knuckles, a handful of throwing knives, a dozen pistols of varying calibers, sawed-off shotgun, sniper rifle, heavy machine gun, 3 different rocket launchers, an ARC rifle with an American flag painted on it, and a grab bag of assorted explosives. Not that I would need all of that, but once you get locked into a serious weapon collection, the tendency is to push it as far as you can. If we were going to resist the Peggies, it was going to be war, with the poor residents of Hope County caught in the crossfire. Tried to take comfort in the knowledge I had no choice, but I failed. What made me a lot more comfortable was knowing I wouldn't have to fight this war alone. While those you and I might call rational people are in short supply in Hope County, the ones available are of the highest quality. Old Dutch, a man carved from Montana pine, pulled me from the chopper wreckage and saved my life, even though it would have been much easier and far more profitable to sell me out to the Peggies. I also helped Grace Armstrong, decorated sniper and the deadliest woman in Holland Valley, defend a church graveyard against desecrators. Nick Rye has a plane, but for some reason won't fly beyond Hope County to seek help. And then there's Herc Jr., out there trying to make a difference with nothing but a rocket launcher and a positive attitude. There goes one of God's own prototypes. Some kind of high-powered mutant never considered for mass production. But my most stalwart friends were of the four-legged and furry variety. Cheeseburger is as formidable as he is cuddly, but it's hard to move stealthily when a bear is following you around. On most missions, I am accompanied by Boomer, the goodest boy in the whole world. Definitely this man's best friend. It would take a concerted effort on all our parts to oust the Seed family and their rotten cult from Hope County. The project has been preparing to weather the apocalypse for some time now. They are entrenched, heavily armed, well supplied, and highly motivated for a long siege. The attempted arrest of Joseph was all the spark they needed to go into full survival mode. The cult has already bought or taken most of the land in the valley, cut off communication with the outside world, and has patrols of zealots blocking the roads. But why? Why make all this bad noise? What in the name of the Father, Son, or Holy Ghost do these Peggies want? Is the point just to spread their particular brand of misery as far as they can? If we're going to break the cult's death grip on the valley, we must start with the weakest link. The so-called little sister of the Seed family, Faith. Didn't even think she was a real person at first. Just a collective hallucination of some villainess from folklore, always appearing in a burst of god rays, mist, and butterflies. Turns out, she was a real person. Several of them, in fact. The white-clad woman always whisking me away to some ethereal plane to wash my brains in bliss was not the first Faith Seed, nor even the second. Apparently, sex with the Father also serves as an audition to become his sister, which is fucked on more levels than I can count right now. Ironically, her faith in the righteousness of Joseph's cause is the flimsiest. Her belief is that of the junkie, born of abject desperation, the only choice other than death. Simply replacing her needle with a crucifix in order to survive. Faith oversees the production and distribution of bliss, a mind-bending drug the cult uses to break people who remain unconvinced by the Father's fiery yet empty rhetoric. So, the cult doesn't win converts. It creates them. It suggested even Faith join the cult under a cloud of bliss. Oddly enough, a mind control drug is the most believable explanation for the project's membership that I have yet heard. I almost pitied Faith, until she doped me up and tried to trick me into killing myself. So I came back, with a rocket launcher, and I turned that stupid statue into gravel. I blew up her supply trucks and set the bliss fields ablaze. My final confrontation with Faith feels like a half-remembered acid trip. I don't really know what happened, but there was a lot of shooting, and she was dead at the end. John Seed is basically the PR guy of the project at Eden's Gate. He dresses like a youth pastor from the 90s and talks like a self-help tape dropped in a blender, waxing nonsensical about the power of yes! John produces the project's TV and radio propaganda that can be heard all over the county, and is the subject of some truly terrible country gospel songs. Apparently, he's also one hell of a lawyer, managing to keep his sociopathic siblings out of court, while buying or seizing most of the land and property in Hope County. The cult owns damn near everything, free, clear, and legal. But underneath it all, John is just a sadist that likes to torture confessions out of people. They don't even have to be real. John will keep turning the screws until you name a sin, any sin. Despite having me helpless in his clutches several times, he would always release me, so that he could continue to torment me with the fate of his hostages. Eventually, we stormed his ranch and freed his prisoners in a hail of bullets. And then John challenged me to a duel in an airplane. Despite not being a pilot or having any training to speak of, I managed to fly up to him and get shot down almost immediately. As I'm parachuting to the ground, John comes on the radio and demands I find another plane to come face him and finish our fight. I point out he could just land, and then we could shoot each other like gentlemen, but he either doesn't hear or ignores me. 3 planes later, I finally managed to ram his craft with mine, and we are both forced to bail out. Once John is on the ground, it doesn't take me long to put him 6 feet under it. He was unaccustomed to fighting his own battles, unlike their eldest brother, Jacob. The Seed family's most faithful soldier, Jacob is in charge of recruiting, training, and commanding the cult's army. He takes the angry and the stupid and turns them into weapons the cult can use. Jacob is the really scary one. The American nightmare made flesh. A straight-up fascist with military training and a talent for psychological warfare, who believes the end of civilization is nigh. He asserts that the weak exist only to feed the strong, and that humanity must cull the herd in order to weather the inevitable collapse. The kind of survivalist who's a little too ready to resort to cannibalism. A real social Darwinist, full of profound observations like human beings will revert to their animal instincts if you starve them, as if that were somehow unique to man. All living things will revert to their baser instincts when they're hungry enough. I almost murdered a man over the last jelly donut after a long night turned into morning on the south side of Boston over 20 years ago. And I still feel shame about it to this day. So that isn't exactly a revelation. Hell, if you interrupted the coffee supply for just 2 days. 2 days. The entire stock market would collapse while planes fell from the sky. Why do so many of Christ's most vocal followers hold the meek in such disdain? Do they even read that holy book of theirs, or is it just for beating people over the head? Much like his siblings, Jacob likes to capture, torture, and release me, then repeat. Apparently, kidnapping is the Seed family's favorite pastime, seeing as all 4 of them have rooms dedicated to holding and interrogating prisoners in their own homes. I guess the technical term for that is a dungeon. Holy shit, these Christians have dungeons in their homes. That's more than a little fucked up, isn't it? What would Jesus say if he could see the blood-spattered whipping post in your basement? Just like his philosophy, Jacob's dungeon is the dullest. A bunch of chicken wire cages out behind his stolen mansion. He tries to condition me using a music box, which is so ridiculous because... Go! Fight! Kill! Faster! Go! Fight! Kill! Faster! Good. Oh shit. What was I talking about? Well, despite all his big talk about the strong culling the weak, Jacob camped on top of a mountain and sniped at me from a distance with about a dozen of his chosen goons between us. Real alpha dog move there. Not the most honorable duel I ever fought, but he was still dead at the end. My only regret was that I could kill him but once. It will have to do. The time for messing around is far behind us. Now I seek Joseph, so that we may resume our earlier debate about the nature of right and wrong. He is understandably reticent about continuing a conversation that keeps getting interrupted by crashing helicopters and gunfire, but I figure we've come this far. Buy the ticket take the ride. So to encourage the father to grant me an audience, I do what I do best. I fuck shit up. Joseph Seed may have been 10 pounds of crazy in a 5-pound bag, but he was right about one thing. Not every problem can be solved with a bullet. Sometimes, you have to use explosives. I scorch the earth wherever the cult's wretched roots have taken hold. Whatever he has built, I tear down. Whomever pledges their service to him, I slay. It does not matter if it be on land, at sea, or in the air. None of the cult's shit goes unfucked until Joseph finally descends from his pulpit to face me. After a brief victim-blaming sermon, he kicks over a barrel of drugs and jumps me in the blissful fog. Somehow, some way, when my back wasn't even turned, Joseph managed to kidnap and mind control every named member of the resistance. Which would be intimidating if it didn't raise so many damned questions. Not just how the hell he accomplished this incredible feat, but also so quickly. Could he have rounded up and brainwashed his enemy's entire leadership at any time he wished? Everyone that had been trying to stop him all this time were now pointing guns at each other in a drug-addled haze. It doesn't look like it was even remotely difficult for Joseph to engineer this situation. So why did he wait so long to spring his perfect trap? Why let me kill his family and hundreds of followers first? If Joseph's ability to break hearts and minds is this absolute, why was there any fighting at all in this valley? But all energy flows according to the will of the great magnet, and it is useless to resist. My comrades just need a good kick in the teeth to regain their senses. Joseph puts up a fight like a cornered bobcat with a snout full of cocaine. But we finally manage to bring him down. Just after we slap the cuffs on Father Joe, he begins to pontificate about his predicament. A nuke goes off. No, seriously. A mushroom cloud is blooming in the middle of Montana. More nukes fall as we try and fail to outrun the shockwave. My final thoughts as the world fades away are, who would waste 5 nukes on Montana? What is there to destroy here that one couldn't handle? I guess I'll never know. Yet once again, I wake up handcuffed to a piece of furniture in an underground bunker. My only company, my rescuer, the wretched Joseph Seed. Somehow he survived the crash and the nuclear fallout without so much as a shirt to protect him, and dragged me to relative safety down below. He starts in with one of his sermons, and I have a vision of my tediously dull future as his captive audience. We are each all the other has left, alone in the face of a burning world. No one is tending the light at the end of the tunnel. So, that's it then? The bad guy was right. The good guys are all dead. The world is ending. I'm chained up in the villain's basement, and there's nothing I can do about any of it. Nothing I could have done. And nothing that I did do mattered in the slightest. Guess that's what I get for trying to do the right thing. Maybe someday, years from now, we'll finally understand what the hell happened here and why. Then again, maybe not.